You're going to be using JavaScript variables a lot in your code. Think of a variable as a container that holds information. The information that a variable can hold is text, numbers, even functions. To create a variable, you first define the variable, and you do that with the word var in front of the name that you want to give the variable. So you'll see down here I have a var, and I'm giving it and then I'm creating a club name variable. And then underneath that, I'm actually assigning that club name variable a value of CodeDigs. And then down here, I'm going to write out I am part of, and then I'm calling that variable name, which will set this to CodeDigs. You'll see here I'm using a plus sign, which is a little bit confusing because you can also use a plus sign to add two numbers together, but in JavaScript you can also use that plus sign to combine two strings together, or you can combine a string with a number. So let's demo this. When I click my Show Me function, it's running my JavaScript code and it's calling, or it's displaying, my CodeDigs variable in my message. And up in my button you'll see I have the onClick event, which is actually calling this function to run this code. Let's expand upon this a little and add another variable. So now I have a variable student count, and I'm setting my student count variable to a number. You'll notice when I'm assigning a variable a number, I don't put quotes around it. If I put quotes around it, JavaScript is going to treat that as a string. If I don't have quotes and it's a number, JavaScript will treat that as a number. You can also add two numbers in a variable. So this variable would then output as 30. But in this example, we're just going to assign the student count variable one number. And then down here, I'm going to write out my variable within. I'm combining my variable within some text. Let's see how that outputs. Refresh our screen. Okay, now you see I am part of CodeDigs, which is pulling the club name variable, with 20, which is pulling the student count variable, other coders. You can also change the value of a variable. So let's, down here, change the value of our variable just for demo purposes to 10. And then let's do another document.write. Of a different message that now updates and pulls the new value that you've gave to that variable. Let's demo that. Refresh our screen. Okay, so you'll see here I'm part of CodeDigs. It first pulled in the variable that you gave it up here of 20, and then it's telling us, oops, no, it is 10 coders, which it's pulling in the updated value that you gave that variable. You'll also notice in my variable names, I'm using what's called camel case. Camel case is basically when you start the name of your variable with the first word as lowercase, and then every other word starts with an uppercase. Keep in mind, it's best to name your variables things that make sense. So when you go back and you read your code, you have a better idea of what those variables really mean and what they are doing. That's a basic overview of variables. In future lessons, you're going to really see all the different ways that you're going to be using variables in your code.